Races can't be won on the first lap, only lost, and I think we saw that today as Max Verstappen might rue his, attack on Oscar Piastri after losing the race, but not by much. Max Verstappen was pushing Piastri throughout, and it could have been a different result, but Piastri has won the Saudi Arabian Grand Prix to take the lead in the championship. A lot to dissect, and we've got Tim Kraaij from GPBlog to talk us through everything that happened. Well, I've already spoken about it. It's the story of the day, I think, Tim. What's the reaction like in the paddock from that Verstappen penalty?
As you would expect, two-sided. So one, you have the Red Bull camp with Max in front, and like the short reaction he gave to DC straight after the race, he wanted to keep it very short. He was very, sometimes a little bit awkward in just not wanting to say anything at all. Maybe in earlier years he would have said everything he thought, and maybe had a lot of swear words in there. So he chose to say nothing. So that was one side of the story. Then we had Christian Horner as well in print media session after the race here. Felt a little bit strange. Of course, he's going to defend his driver, but they printed out all the data as well. They printed out a screenshot of a situation in turn one where Max was ahead of Oscar Piastri. To be honest, it felt a little bit strange because it was just one shot. And yes, Max was in front of that shot, but was it really at the apex? I'm not sure. I think it was a very straight penalty. That was also what McLaren thought. Andrea Stella was very clear on it. Had the same issue with Lando in Bahrain when he overtook Hamilton outside of the track. They gave the position back. That's not something that Red Bull did because they didn't think they were in the wrong there. A difference of opinion, but I think Oscar and Andrea Stella were very clear on the fact that they thought it was a slam dunk penalty, and the FIA and the stewards agreed with them.
Oscar Piastri, of course, going to be very happy with the result on such a trajectory at this point that I would say championship favourite. How's he thinking, or how is McLaren, should I say, be thinking about the championship shift now? Norris is not the championship leader.
Yeah, it feels like a momentum shift as well. I have a story coming up for tomorrow morning for the website of GPBlog, telling a little bit about how the paddock feels as well, because it feels like the momentum is building. And if you speak to people on the paddock here as well, it is quite a tricky situation now for McLaren, because yes, they have two number one drivers and they're very happy to push them as two equals, but in terms of the financials, they're not equals, of course, because they both signed a new contract, but Lando is the main boy of the team. He's the one on the bigger contract, so he should be the one converting this car to wins and poles, and he's not delivering at the moment. That's the difference, where Oscar Piastri is now performing very well, and Christian Horner spoke very highly of him. Max Verstappen spoke very highly of Oscar in the presser after the race as well. That's a quite tricky situation for McLaren, which they've seen themselves in before with Daniel Ricciardo, who came in on a lot of money for a number one spot, while Lando Norris, the young gun in the team back then, proved to be the better driver of the two. And you feel like a similar situation is coming up now, because Oscar seems to be very consistent under pressure. We've seen too many cracks with Lando so far.
Are there any cracks from the team about what they're thinking about the Lando and Piastri situation?
I think one line in Andrea Stella's print media session after the Grand Prix here was interesting to me, because of course they're defending their drivers. But there was one line in there about the fight with Lewis Hamilton, where Lando was outdriven by Lewis Hamilton for 3 laps. It took him a little bit longer than you would expect with the car that he had, only by being outsmarted in the last corner where the arrest activation was. And I think if you look back at the last races we've had here, that shouldn't happen. That should be your homework as a driver coming into this race. I think it was very childish of Lando to not be aware of that situation, and especially not let it happen 2 times in a row and get overtaken 2 times in a row as well. Andrea Stella said that cost Lando a chance to fight with Charles Leclerc for P3, because the fighting with Lewis Hamilton, he lost too much time, and that cost him in the end the P3 and cost him again 3 points. And that added up with the qualifying errors, and of course the errors we've seen in Bahrain. It all adds up now, and it will be very difficult for Lando. He's now a week to recover, but the momentum is certainly on the side of Oscar Piastri at the moment.
It might be just what Lando needs after a triple header, when you've got that momentum going in one direction, to have that small little break and a trip over to Miami. It's a place that he's obviously got great memories of, and GPBlog will be on the ground again in Florida. Tim, you've been brilliant as ever across this whole weekend in Saudi Arabia. Thank you so much for all of the updates. If you want to stay updated on what happens in the Miami Grand Prix, please like, comment, subscribe. We'll be back in 2 weeks' time.